And good morning. Great to have you with us. It is 5 a.m. on this Wednesday. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher and Kevin Charette.
Yeah, and this is a special edition of 17 News at Sunrise because tonight is the first Democratic debate of the 2020 presidential election. We'll have team coverage coming up. But first, a look at your beautiful forecast.
It really is.
It started already.
The election,
cool down?
Political year.
Oh, that. The cool down and
It's
that.
already started, but yeah, now we've got the opens and everything else.
So it's really,
Here we go
it's
again.
really starting now, for sure.
And weather cooling down a little bit. Welcome back, Maddie. And she's been enjoying a little time off.
Been
enjoying
moving.
Been moving.
Yeah.
The beautiful area of
Tehachapi.
Tehachapi.
Yeah.
A little cooler up that way, right?
It's a little cooler.
Cooler,
I've been enjoying that.
That's very
kinda nice.
Yesterday,
I
sprawled out on the deck.
I listen to the forecast in the evening, and I always listen. And actually, my kids even do it now. They're like, "Mom, they said Tehachapi."
And you're like, yep, that's where we are now.
Well, everybody's going to get a little bit of a cool down here as we go throughout the next few days. So that's a good news. Let's talk about yesterday, and we were in the upper 90s around the area. Bakersfield actually hit 98 degrees. Now the record is 112, and that was set back in 1957, so we're well off from that. As we take a look at the current temperature right now for Bakersfield, 68 degrees, so nice and comfortable for you. We have a light north-northeast wind at 5, and as we take a look at the day, we'll be right near 70, and then noontime temperature of 81, 3 o'clock sunny skies, and 91 degrees. For the mountains, 54 degrees right now in Tehachapi, a northwest wind at 9, and as we take a look at the overall day, starting out in the 50s and 70s throughout the afternoon. But it's also going to be a little bit on the windy side. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a little bit. But first, let's get a check of the morning commute. We'll send that over to Alex.
All right, thanks so much, Kevin, taking you outside for the first time this morning to the 99 near White Lane. As you can see, traffic is looking pretty good on that side of town. Everything else around the county is also looking pretty good to start off your Wednesday morning. We'll have another check of your commute coming up in about 15 minutes.
The stage is set. The first 10 of 20 Democratic presidential candidates face off tonight. It's part of a two-night debate hosted by NBC News.
Yeah, we have team coverage this morning. That's where this is all happening in Miami at the Adrian Center for the Performing Arts. Savannah Guthrie, Lester Holt, Chuck Todd, Rachel Maddow, and Jose Diaz-Balart will moderate those debates.
It all kicks off at 6 o'clock right here on TV 17. 17's Vanessa Dillon joins us this morning in the newsroom with a preview. Vanessa?
That's right, Maddie. Tonight's debate will be one of the biggest to set the tone for the 2020 presidential election. All eyes will be on 10 of the 20 Democratic candidates ready to change things up in Washington. But the first Democratic debate is just the beginning of what many are calling a long road ahead. Now that's why we're here to give you a breakdown of what you need to know before you watch. Some of the big names you should keep an eye on include New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, and New York Mayor Bill de Blasio. The second group appearing on tomorrow's stage include Vermont Senator and former Democratic lead Bernie Sanders, California Senator Kamala Harris, and former Vice President Joe Biden. Those who didn't make the cut include Montana Governor Steve Bullock. He barely missed the cut, hitting 1% in 2 polls. The Democratic National Committee decided the order candidates would take the stage at random, saying their goal was to avoid complaints that were lodged against the Republican National Committee in the run-up to the 2016 election. Something you should also take note of is where tonight's candidates will be standing. Top polling candidates will be placed center stage, while lower polling contenders are closer to the edges of the stage. As far as how candidates were chosen, the DNC set a few rules that narrowed that number down to 20. In order to have been given the green light to participate, candidates had to have received donations from 130,000 different donors, at least 400 from 20 different states. Each also had to have at least hit 2% in 4 different polls. Now, as you mentioned, the debate will air tonight and tomorrow right here on KGET starting at 6 o'clock. Alex, Maddie.
All right, thanks so much, Vanessa. And this is a historically crowded field of Democrats reminiscent of the Republican race in 2016. That's when we saw 17 candidates running, though only 12 made it to the primaries. And preparations for tonight are well underway. In fact, crews were setting up the stage very early yesterday. Here's a live look at the final preparations happening right now at the Adrian Center for the Performing Arts in Miami.
So why is the Sunshine State so important in the race for the White House? It tends to be a swing state. Those are states where the 2 major political parties have similar levels of support among voters, making their votes important for determining the overall result of a presidential election. California is also very important in the presidential primaries. Coming up in about 30 minutes, 17's Aton Wallace will join us to explain why that's the case and how your vote will make a bigger difference this year than in years past.
And Florida will be a key state for President Trump in the 2020 election.
And that is why tonight I stand before you to officially launch my campaign for a second term as President of the United States.
President Trump kicked off his re-election bid last week in the critical battleground state. There are a few paths to victory that do not include winning the state's 29 electoral votes. You may remember President Trump claimed victory in Florida during the 2016 election. He won the state with 49% of the voters, or 4.6 million votes, compared to Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton's 4.4 million votes.
All right, other news this morning. Tehachapi City leaders and police have reached a deal to keep the city safe. The city and Tehachapi Police Officers Association agreed on a 5-year contract. Police officers will receive about 3.5% cost of living adjustment. They'll also receive an additional $200 for uniforms in the first and third year of the agreement. The city says with the new rates, TPD ranks 4th in starting pay for law enforcement when compared to other Kern and Los Angeles agencies.
The final person wanted in connection with the deadly gang shooting in Delano is behind bars this morning. Police say several people shot 28-year-old Diego Morfin in July 2017. It happened on Clinton Street, not far from Fremont Elementary School. The shooting led to a high-speed chase through Delano, but the suspects got away in Tulare County. 2 men were wanted in this shooting, Sergio Valle and Rosario Perez. Police arrested Valle last May, but Perez was on the run until Monday when police arrested him. He's being charged with murder and gang participation. Perez is being held without bail and is set to appear before a judge later this morning.
5:07 now. There may be a break in one of the ongoing searches along the Kern River. As we've been reporting, search crews have been looking for 2 cousins, ages 15 and 19, who disappeared on Father's Day near Keysville. The sheriff's office says someone found a man's body yesterday about a half-mile downriver from the Keysville camp area. KCSO has not released the identity of that person who was found. Search crews are still looking for an 11-year-old girl who was lost in the river on Saturday, and a Los Angeles man who disappeared about 20 miles north of Kernville. This morning, the sheriff's office is holding a news conference to bring attention to the recent events in the so-called Killer Kern. KCSO says since 2000, 96 people have died in the Kern River. 4 of those people have died just this month. KCSO wants to remind people to stay out and stay alive.
5:07 now. In a workplace tragedy, 3 people are dead this morning, including the suspected gunman, after a shooting at a Ford dealership in Northern California. It happened around 6 o'clock last night at the dealership in Morgan Hill. Police believe the shooter was a disgruntled employee or former employee. Officers are still processing the scene and investigating, but they say right now there are no outstanding suspects. A new state law is about to take effect, and it will affect gun owners starting Monday. California will become the first state to require background checks in order to buy bullets. The new law is part of Prop 63 voters passed in 2016. The measures coincides with the state's requirement for background checks in order to buy a gun. Since 1993, background checks have led to more than 1 million denials of gun sales to people not allowed to buy them. Parts of Prop 63 have been tied up in court, including the measure that goes into effect next week. Critics like the NRA say it is unconstitutional, but some of the state's top leaders say it's another important effort to curb gun violence.
Gun violence devastates not just our communities, it devastates our homes. It devastates our schools. It devastates our workplace.
Gun safety laws save lives. The extreme rhetoric on the other side that works against basic common sense has to be called out for what it is.
Another part of Prop 63 that's tied up in the courts, a ban of high-capacity magazines in California, an accessory used in recent mass shootings. Regardless of the legal hurdles, state leaders are eager for the new law to take effect.
All right, it's 5:09. Still ahead this morning on Sunrise, the debate over humanitarian aid at the border is on the front burner again. How much funding the House approved and what the Senate's doing to counter.
Plus, he's a BC student, but instead of being in a classroom, he's behind bars, the Mesa Verde Detention Center. The reason the community is calling for his release, that story coming up.
And the sun is slowly coming up around Kern County under clear skies and a cooler day ahead. We'll talk more about it coming up.
working in the spirit of the Golden Empire. This is 17 News with Maddie Jansen, Alex Fisher, and Kevin Charette with your Pinpoint Doppler forecast. This is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. It's just before 5:30 here on this Wednesday morning. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher and Kevin Charette.
Yeah, thanks for joining us for this special edition of 17 News at Sunrise. Of course, as we prepare for the first 2020 presidential debate happening in Miami later today. It is here. It is time.
Yeah, it is time, and that's all we're going to hear about for months to come.
Yeah, kind of hard to believe we're already beginning the election cycle again. We have a ways to go. But we're also beginning something we're probably a little more excited about.
Yeah, a department I like a lot better, and that is the cool down, the weather. And we are definitely going to be seeing a cool down the next few days. So that's good news. No triple digits. In fact, I don't have triple digits on the board for the next 7. So that's always good to see as we round out June. 68 degrees out there right now for you. We have a light wind out of the north-northeast at 5 miles per hour. And as we take a look at the day, and you can see we start out nice and comfortable and then rising those temperatures into the lower 90s by this evening. For the mountains, Tehachapi here at 54 right now. Light wind out of the northwest at 7. I do expect the winds to pick up throughout the day here, and you can see on the temperatures we're expecting the 70s. So nice and comfortable up in the Tehachapi area. We'll talk much more about your forecast in just a little bit, but first let's see how the morning commute's going. We're going to send that over to Officer Robert Rodriguez. Good morning, Robert.
Well, good morning, Kevin. Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Here through town, very good traffic commute to start it off. We do have one crash out near Buttonwillow, and that's going to be on Stockdale Highway near Morris Road. It looks like it's a solo vehicle that went off the roadway at that location, so the roadway is clear. Those of you who are making your travels out of town, your major routes are in pretty good shape. Taking a look at our traffic cam, we'll take you out and show you the commute here on Highway 99 near Airport Drive. As you can see, so far, so good here through town. That's my look at traffic. Maddie and Alex, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks so much, Robert. The 2020 presidential race heats up tonight in Miami with back-to-back debates hosted by NBC News. As you know, 20 Democrats have qualified.
And that's too many to fit onto one stage, so they're dividing it into 2 nights. And Tracy Potts joins us from Miami, where the first 10 face off later this evening. Good morning, Tracy.
Alex and Maddie, good morning. For the veteran politicians who've done this before, tonight they'll have to answer for their record, their policies, their decisions. For those new to the national stage, tonight is a chance to introduce themselves to voters.
The stage is set. The first 10 Democrats face off tonight.
This is our chance in 2020, our chance to dream big, to fight hard, and to win.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren is leading by double digits in a new MoveOn.org poll of progressives.
So she has a chance to dominate. If she plays her cards well, it should work for her because she'll be the center of attention.
It's 2 hours packed with questions on everything from immigration to Iran.
I will make sure that we only take this country into war as a last resort.
That's Beto O'Rourke from Texas. He'll be sharing center stage. For those trailing in the polls, tonight is their chance.
I'm the only candidate that has put forward a plan on police reform
to break out of the pack.
The opportunity for a candidate to break through is pretty slim.
60 seconds for answers, 30 to follow up. 10 more candidates debate Thursday, the top tier, including former Vice President Joe Biden. Biden wrote this op-ed in the Miami Herald criticizing President Trump's immigration policy. The president shot back. Why no endorsement from Barack Obama?
And then he goes and lies and said, I asked the president not to endorse me. Give me a break.
Give me a chance. That's what most of these candidates will be asking voters tonight.
So here's what to expect tonight. There are 5 sections of questions, no opening statements, but each candidate will get a chance to deliver their closing argument. In Miami, I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
Preparations for tonight are well underway. In fact, crews were setting up the stage yesterday. Here is a live look at the stage in Miami this morning. And we may be thousands of miles away from the debate stage, but California could very much be a part of the discussion tonight. In fact, California voters will have a much larger role during this primary election than ever before.
Yeah, and joining us this morning at our local election headquarters is 17's Aton Wallace to explain. Good morning, Aton.
Hey, good morning, Alex. That's right. Yes, you mentioned that this debate is taking place in South Florida, but as part of your local election headquarters, I want to explain to you why California voters could be playing such a more significant role in this primary election than in previous elections. And this is partially why. It all has to do with the date. This year, the election is taking place in March of 2020. That is Super Tuesday, when California and 13 other states are taking place in voting for their presidential candidates. But in years past, that took place in June. And because it's much earlier this year, we could expect to see presidential candidates come out here to California and really try to get to know the voters and say that we should vote. Here's why we should vote for that candidate. So that's one of the major reasons. Now, I want to explain to you how the Democratic primary process works. There's something called delegates, in particular pledged delegates. Across the United States, there are 3,768 pledged delegates that a candidate can earn, and they earn those delegates based on the amount of votes they receive. Well, in California, there are 416 available pledged Democratic delegates. That's about 11% of the 3,768 total delegates across the state. And that is significant because in California, it is not a winner-take-all state. And that means that each candidate will receive delegates proportional to the amount of votes they receive. So you can see a lot of candidates coming out here, and a lot of them will receive votes. And depending on who gets the most votes, it really doesn't matter, because they will then split up those votes, and those delegates will go to each candidate depending on how many votes they get. Now, in case you were wondering if every vote counts, well, let me take you back to the June 7, 2016 Democratic primary to give you an example of why every vote counts. Hillary Clinton, here you see, got 54% in Kern County to Bernie Sanders 43, roughly 43.9%. But the margin was just 5,432 votes. That really should tell you. And in case that doesn't tell you, well, let me take you to Tulare County, where the margin was even fewer. 2,638 votes was the margin. And in Kings County, just about 1,000 votes separated the two candidates. Every vote counts. And now that it's taken place in California in March, that the primary is taking place on, each candidate will certainly know that, and that's why tonight at the debate, even though it's in South Florida, we could certainly hear things related to California, issues related to California. Here we go over to City of Bakersfield numbers. This is interesting. There are now more registered Democrats in the City of Bakersfield than Republicans. About 34% of the registered voters are Democrats. 33% are Republicans. But take a look at this. This perhaps is the number that means the most. No party preference. More than 27% of registered voters in City of Bakersfield are no party preference. And in California, that matters, because in the Democratic primary election, no party preference voters are allowed to vote in that election. So we could very well see Democratic candidates also reaching out to the no party preference, to those who say, I don't have a party, and I'm going to make up my mind based on which candidate I like. We should also point out that in Kern County, that number is also no party preference, just above a quarter. There are slightly more registered Republicans than Democrats in Kern County. But again, the no party preference voters, that is a big deal. And a lot of the candidates might very well reach out to you, the no party preference voters. Now, in case you didn't believe that every vote matters, in the next hour, I will bring you a little bit more data as to, from the congressional district from the 2016 election, why every vote matters. But for now, I did want to let you know again, March 3rd, 2020, that is the big day. That is Super Tuesday, when Democrats in California will be voting for their next presidential candidate. And that is 251 days from today. And as always, count on us, TV 17, to be your local election headquarters. We're live in your local election headquarters. Aton Wallace, 17 News.
Aton Wallace has been crunching the numbers for us this morning.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Well, the candidates will take the stage in about 12 hours for the first round of national debates this election season. And as we've mentioned, 20 candidates will debate over 2 nights. Here are the first 10 taking the stage tonight. The debate gives them a chance to present their positions and try to stand out in a very crowded field. And these are the 10 candidates you'll see on the stage tomorrow. You can watch the debates only on TV 17 tonight and tomorrow, both nights at 6 p.m. And we'll have a complete recap of the debate here on Sunrise tomorrow and Friday.
And now to Washington, where lawmakers are scrambling to approve legislation to address the humanitarian crisis at the border. Late last night, the House voted on a $4.5 billion emergency humanitarian aid bill, but it's now set up a showdown with the Senate on a competing measure. Customs and Border Protection facilities are overflowing with migrant families and unaccompanied children detained after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. The station, Clint, Texas, is described as filthy, dangerous, and only getting worse. President Trump says he's concerned about the conditions, but the White House has threatened to veto the House bill because it doesn't like the restrictions on immigration enforcement in the bill. The Senate's expected to take up its version of the border package as early as today.
This comes on the same day a photographer captured a gut-wrenching image of a father and daughter dead along the bank of the Rio Grande after they drowned trying to cross the U.S.-Mexico border. We're not going to show the image because it is pretty graphic, but it showed a man and his daughter face down in shallow water along the riverbank. His black shirt hiked up to his chest with the girl tucked inside. Her arm was draped around his neck, suggesting she clung to him in her final moments. The photographer behind it says the way they were joined together in their final moments moved her deeply. The photo recalls the 2015 image of a 3-year-old Syrian boy who drowned in the Mediterranean near Turkey, though it remains to be seen whether it may have the same impact in focusing international attention on migration to the United States. The battle over humanitarian funding is also happening as the acting U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner John Sanders handed in his resignation. This man, Mark Morgan, is set to take his place. Morgan is currently serving as acting Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director.
Meantime, employees of online housewares retailer Wayfair are planning to walk out today. They're protesting the company's decision to sell furniture to a detention camp on the Mexican border. The Boston Globe reports a Wayfair employee says the company received a $200,000 order for mattresses on June 13th. The order came from a charity that works as a government contractor managing some of the camps on the southern border. More than 500 employees co-signed a letter explaining why they're upset with the owners of the company. The walkout has received support from Massachusetts Senator and presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren, as well as U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. You may remember the name Jose Bello. He's the BC student who was arrested a year ago on immigration charges. It's important to note he was arrested in February for driving under the influence while he was out on bail. Then in May, ICE agents arrested him again. Now the community is protesting his case. 17's Karen Roy explains.
Well, Jose Bello's BC classmates, along with the ACLU of Southern California, have launched a week of protests around Bakersfield. Yesterday's was at Mesa Verde, where Bello is incarcerated.
Shut it down! Shut it down!
Protesters calling for Bello's release.
We're just here in support of those folks that are in Mesa Verde or in detentions like Mesa Verde.
Bello was brought to the United States by his parents at age 3.
My name is Jose Bello.
In May, he read a poem he wrote called Dear America at the Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting.
We want to feel safe whether we're brown, Asian, or black. We don't want your jobs. We don't want your money. We're here to work hard, pay taxes, and study.
Less than 36 hours after reading the poem, ICE agents arrested him at his home in Bakersfield. He's being held at Mesa Verde on a bond of $50,000, an amount the ACLU is calling hugely unjust.
Walls, borders, this is all made up. We've all made up these ideas, and now it's up to us to challenge the norms that are being in place and to do something about it.
Now, the ACLU is suing. Its court filing makes a few requests. First, that Bello gets to go before a judge before being detained or imprisoned. Second, that he's released while his immigration case makes its way through the courts. And third, that his bail is reduced.
We don't need detention centers like this because there's no point for other humans to mistreat other human beings.
We're here for you, Jose!
The ACLU says Bello's arrest violates the First Amendment, claiming ICE agents specifically, quote, targeted activists who publicly criticize its immigration enforcement practices.
Mesa Verde is a facility for 400 folks that are currently detained, and there's so many detention centers that exist throughout the United States.
This group will hold another rally today at Mill Creek Park downtown from 5 to 7 p.m. Bello's hearing is also scheduled for today at the Immigration Court in San Francisco. I'm Karen Hua, 17 News.
All right, it is 5:43 now, and another close call at a Major League ballpark. We'll show you the latest incident still ahead.
And can you feel it? A cool down's on the way. Kevin's tracking those temperatures as they drop a little bit and a beautiful Wednesday morning out there. We'll tell you just how much those temperatures are expected